what if I was to tell you that there's a reverb plugin out there that all you had to do was click assist and then listen to that sound source and gave you back a personalized reverb sound for that sound source? Not only that, but what if it also allowed me to afterwards tweak the parameters, change the decay, change the size, add saturation, add compression, a gating function, and all these bells and whistles? Well, Antares has created the autotune reverb, which does all of these things and so much more. I was really excited when they sent this over because I just felt like with these AI powered or machine learning type of tools that it's really going to open up a whole world of creativity for me personally, to be able to have like that opinion of a second person in the studio while still giving me the ability to be human and be able to tweak what it gives me back. Check out this plugin. I can't wait to show you this. Watch this. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is I'm going to play you a vocal with the reverb on it. Basically what I did was I have a sending to an aux that then has the autotune reverb. What we're gonna do is I'm going to exaggerate it. So I have a lot of this going to the reverb. So you're gonna hear an exaggerated reverb right now, just for the purposes of this video. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to press the assist button. I'm going to listen to the prompts, kind of give it and answer all of its questions. And then you're gonna see me go to my aux right here or my send and turn it down to fit within the music where I feel like it's better suited. So let's do that right now. Let's take a listen to this and then hit assist and go through all the prompts that it gives me and answer the questions that it has. Check this out.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand while I was your man. Girl, I feel so dumb, feel like another man would. Smile in my face, knowing that he was your type. Sat me down like, baby, you so wrong, but damn it, I was right.
Okay, now what we're gonna do is let us hear this vocal soloed. So I'm gonna solo the vocal and we're gonna go back and forth with the actual send and listen to it without the reverb and with the reverb. Check out what it did. So without first.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or
really cool. And obviously what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take what it gave me, this idea, this opinion, and I'm going to tweak it from there. I think this is really fun to use. I think it's really powerful to use. And I think for people that get stuck in that box when it comes to mixing or just doing anything sonically with reverbs in general, sometimes we set things or get so accustomed to just using the same reverbs and things of that nature that we need something in between that to kind of break up that monotony of what we always do to help us make something that is more unique from a case-by-case basis. Let me show you this plugin internally, in and out, how it could probably help you, and see if there's anything in it that you really can take from it within your mixes or production or whatever you want to use it for. Let's do it. Oh my gosh, are you like watching my video? Did you know you can comment, like, and subscribe? Okay, don't skip. Okay, don't skip. Okay, back to your video. I'm sorry. So I'm going to take you through this entire plugin. And the first thing I'm going to take you for is I'm going to make you look at this middle section first. Long story short, if you look at the top of this middle section, let's start with the input type. And basically from the input type, you're accustomed to seeing this in other Antares products, where basically I can change that input type from soprano, alto, low male, instrument, or bass. In this one in particular, I can actually hit the learn button, and that's actually going to determine for me what it thinks is best for the actual sound source, which is really cool to have, as opposed to kind of playing a guessing game where is this a low male or is this alto? You can hit learn and it'll kind of determine what it feels is best. That's awesome to have. Next thing we have over here is obviously that assist button. I think that assist button is really powerful. Obviously, you just seen it for what it is. If I hit the assist, basically you saw that I was greeted with a bunch of different prompts and things of that nature. Let me hit it right quick so that we can see each prompt so we can get an idea of what it's actually asking me and things of that nature. So let's listen to it and then I'll stop it when it gets to the first screen.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand while I was your man. Girl, I feel so dumb, feel like another man.
So you can see the prompts that it gives me. It asks me basically, how big do I want the reverb? Do I want a concert hall? Do I want a tighter room? It really asks me personalized questions that it then determines, okay, this is what I have back for you. So it's really fun to have. You can also obviously see that it asks me if it wanted it gritty, if it wanted more of an 80s style. Did I want to manipulate the octave? I'm going to show you all of those things, but the fact that it's giving me those options and kind of just help steer me in a direction, that's cool. And I think that's what makes this kind of special in its own regard, being that it actually asks me questions and says, hey, what do you want to do? Really cool from an opinion standpoint. So that's the assist button. Next thing we have over here, you're going to see a lot of very common parameters. You have the pre-delay button. Pre-delay obviously is that time that it takes between the actual dry signal and that wet reverb signal to happen. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to actually have that dry signal happen a little bit first before the reverb comes all over it. It helps with clarity, fidelity, and things of that nature. Keep that in mind. I have a bunch of tutorials on pre-delay, but just know that's what that's kind of there for, to kind of determine when am I going to come onto the vocal. Beautiful thing about it is the fact that not only can I have it pretty much picking the milliseconds as far as when, but I can also have this little sync feature where I can say sync, and basically it'll do it within the timing of the song, which is awesome. So I can do it where it's like, hey, the tempo is already locked in, the plugin understands the tempo, I want it to be in a quarter note, or I want it to be in an eighth note, obviously an eighth note dotted, all of those types of things. What I say is use your ears, but it's really cool to have something where you can have a pre-delay in time. You don't have to even think about it or do any math. You can just have it there. A lot of plugins do have that, but nonetheless, it's just nice to have it. It's a good feature. I think a lot of reverb plugins moving forward should probably implement that into their plugin. Next thing on the right, we have a decay. Obviously, the decay is going to determine the size of that reverb or the tail of that reverb. Obviously, with more decay, you're going to hear a longer reverb. With a shorter one, you're going to hear a shorter reverb. That's self-explanatory. If you don't know what decay is, you can look on the channel and see if you can see some of my parameters where I have tutorials kind of breaking that down. Simple parameter, nothing crazy, just a decay knob. Then down here, you have the reverb style. And this is pretty cool to have because now you can choose between 3 different reverb styles. You have a plate verb, which, as you can see, you can already hear it changing the sound and stuff like that. It's basically, or some people describe it as a metal sheet. The way they used to do it back in the day was a metal sheet with microphones picking up the sound coming off of that metal sheet. And that's how you kind of get in that plate verb sound. So you have a plate verb, you have a room verb, which is also a tad bigger in that regard. It's literally what it sounds like. Kind of like it sounds like you're putting your reverb or your sound source in a room. And then you have the hall verb, which is obviously a lot bigger, a lot larger. If you're looking for a bigger, more theatrical style of reverb, you can click hall. So you can choose between those 3 different reverb styles and determine which one you like. So what we can do right now is I can actually cycle through each one, let you get an idea of what they sound like. Check this out.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand.
So 3 very different reverb styles. Pick which one you like the most and use your ears. A lot of times when it comes to plate verbs, I really enjoy them being very short. It allows me to have a little bit more of a stereo feel to a vocal. And it's also very, I don't want to say the word unnoticeable. I like to use it a lot when it comes to rap vocals because I don't want it to be drowned in reverb, but I do want that feeling of dimension and depth. And that short plate or plate verb can help me accomplish that. So you have the plate verb in those 3 different styles. On the left-hand side, you have the mod rate and the mod depth. If you don't know what that is, check it out. It helps to kind of manipulate the pitch of the reverb a bit. Sometimes when I feel like the pitch of the reverb is a bit wonky or gives me a feeling that I don't like, I'll then go over to the mod rate and mod depth and basically kind of tweak things to get it to sound a little bit better or to my liking. You can look more into that. On the right hand side, you have the damping, And basically what the dampening is, it's taking the higher end frequencies and manipulating in a way where the decay of those higher end frequencies are happening or decaying sooner. It's kind of like making it feel like it's a bit darker from the reverb side, dampening 100%. It's a little darker, but in an interesting way, not like just rolling off a bunch of low end. Just a really interesting way to create a little bit more of a darkening sound from your reverb, as opposed to just using just a traditional EQ rolling stuff off. Check this out. I'll give you an example. Let's put it to 0% and let's crank it.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage or never go see
So what you heard was the decay or the timing for those high end frequencies to end got a lot shorter when we changed it to 100% dampening, as opposed to when we turned it to 0% dampening, the higher frequencies lasted longer. That's what you're hearing basically when you hit the dampening knob. So keep that in mind. It's there. Cool way to kind of darken the reverb a bit without really using EQ to kind of just roll off everything at once. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go on over to this right side. And basically on this right side, you have some very familiar functions. You have the mix knob, you have the width knob, and you have this auto EQ knob. Now, I do want to show you this width knob because a lot of times with a lot of reverb plugins, I'll have a width knob, but I feel like I don't really hear the width. I feel like it's just there, and yeah, it gives me a little bit of that width, but I never really feel like it really hits, if that makes any sense. Check out this width knob. To the left will be more of a narrowing reverb. To the right will be a larger reverb. Check this out. Let's make it huge right now.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand.
Thank you. I heard that. I clearly could hear that width, and then I can clearly hear that narrowing. A lot of times when it comes to a lot of reverbs, I mess with their width knob, and it doesn't feel, how do you say, obvious. It kind of just feels very subtle, but I like that they've added this function, and I like the algorithm that it's using to really just widen up that sound and narrow it. I think that's really cool. I can really hear width on the reverb using their plugin. Next thing we have down here is where we starting to get a little funky with stuff, or here's where we're starting to get a little bit more unorthodox with things. So I'm gonna read what this auto EQ does, and then I'll explain it. So the auto EQ, it adjusts the amount of EQ automatically applied to the reverb. Auto EQ tracks the pitch of the incoming vocal and dynamically reduces the same frequency range in the reverb tail. Long story short, imagine like this. Autotune, or excuse me, the autotune reverb is seeing your incoming signal, looking at the pitch of that vocal or whatever the sound source is. It's then on the tail of the reverb saying, hey, what I got from that original sound source, I'm gonna take out or reduce those frequencies in the actual tail. Why is this incredible? It's incredible because now I'm getting a reverbed sound that when the original dry signal is there, the reverb sound is EQ'd or reduced in its similar place as far as where that frequency range is happening. Thus, I'm getting more separation out of that reverb and that dry signal that you had originally. That's giving me a cleaner reverb because now it doesn't feel like the reverb is masking or destroying or taking over the original sound source, being that it's not clashing with those frequencies and stuff like that. So it's kind of reducing those frequencies in the reverb tail so that you have more space and more fidelity in the original. That's at least what my ears hear when I looked and read it and then felt it and said, oh wow, I feel like the reverb is kind of getting out the way of the actual dry signal and creating this depth. Check it out for yourselves. Let's put it to 0 and then I'm gonna crank it all the way up.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand. while I was your man. Girl, I feel so dumb, feel like.
So you can feel when I don't have the auto EQ, when I had the audio EQ at 0, you can feel like there's a little bit of a like a fight within the reverb and the vocal, where it feels like, okay, it's getting a little cloudy, as opposed to when I have it more to the right side or 100. You notice that it feels like the vocal has a little bit more separation, or it feels like it's more on an island of its own. It's a really, really cool feature to have. It's very subtle in what it does, but it's very useful and very helpful if you're trying to clean up that reverb and get a sound that feels a little bit more separated from the reverb as well. I really like that feature, and I thought that was really cool. All right, let's move on over to the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side, we have a delay. Yes, we have a built-in delay into the plugin. And obviously what a delay is gonna do is it's going to create copies of that vocal and kind of dissipate them out from a feedback standpoint. I'm gonna explain it, I'm gonna show it to you. Right here we have the timing, so you can choose what kind of delay you want, whether you want an 8th note delay, whether you want a 4th note, or you want a triplets, or whatever you want. You can kind of choose exactly what you want as far as the timing of that delay. You then have the mix knob, which allows you to control how much of that delay you want in the actual mix sound, or how pretty much it's how loud it's going to be within there. Then you have the feedback, which is going to basically control the number of echoes, kind of, that you're going to hear within that sound source. And then you have a low pass filter here as well. And this will really, really help with kind of separating the delay from the actual original signal if it feels like it's piling on top of each other. So let's just play around with the actual delay. Right now I have it in ping pong mode, meaning it's going to make the delay feel like this, kind of going left, right. And obviously if I put it in mono, it's going to feel more centered. Let's try it in ping pong and let's see what it sounds like with this delay. Granted, remember, I put this reverb, I've cranked it, it's really loud, so I'm exaggerating so we can really hear this thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it feedback up a little bit, and then I'm gonna take this mix knob and move it up a bit just to see what it sounds like. Check this out.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walked beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand while I was your man. Girl, I feel so dumb, feel like another man won.
So really cool sound. You can even hear when I take the low pass filter and bring it down that it feels and makes the delays a lot darker, which has like this really cool lo-fi sound that it brings to the actual signal. Really simple, but it's super fun to have within the plugin, built in, that's actually just working together with the reverb to make things happen. So that is the delay section of the reverb. Now, let's get to the crazy advanced stuff. And I think this is well labeled. Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite GUIs from Antares ever, because as soon as I opened it up, I totally understood it. I didn't need much to get off and running. Obviously, you got the preset window over there. You could try things too. Down below is this advanced section. Obviously, you can see when I hit advanced, everything drops down. What I like the most about how it's labeled is, and thank you, Antares, is that it's labeled pre-verb and post-verb. Why that's so important to me is because the way a signal is processed before a reverb or before anything can vary or change the way it sounds if it's processed after. So the fact that this is labeled pre and post lets me know all of these processes over here are pre and all of these processes over here are post the reverb. Very important, very powerful, and just something that I'm just glad is labeled that way, because I feel like I would like to know that stuff as far as how things are structured from a signal flow standpoint. Okay, so let's come on over here to the pitch section. And this pitch section actually does something really cool. Right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit plus 12. I want you to listen to what plus 12 does. I'm gonna bring the mix all the way down. I'm gonna click plus 12 and let's increase the mix. Check this out.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me.
So literally all I did was I pitched the reverb sound. So I took the original sound source, I went to +12, and it takes that signal and says, okay, well, the reverb is going to be an octave higher. It's a really cool effect. You know, you can be really creative with that. Use it to your advantage or whatever you want to do. They also have this throat function, which I've seen on a lot of Antares products or plugins. And basically that throat function is really going to change the sound of whatever you have it at as far as that pitch. So if you're not liking you put it on -12 and you're not liking the sound of that voice, you can then go to throat and change the length of that, and it'll really just kind of alter it so you can fine tune exactly how you want that changed pitch or that octave up or octave down to sound. I've seen a lot of people do this, and I've seen them have to do a whole process in order to get a pitched reverb sound, but this is really dope that it's built in. It's really fun to use. Try it out for yourselves. It might open your brain to some new stuff for yourself. Here we go. So if you watch this channel a lot, you know that I am a sucker for saturation. They've added this saturation fader here, and basically the way they described it is, and let me get it, let's pull it up. Come on for me, 1 sec. Which, thank you for this tooltips. Basically says it disables tube saturation in the reverb. So basically they've added this tube saturation feature in the plugin. I want you to hear what it sounds like. Let's go from 0 and increase it, and then let's determine what that tube saturation sounds like.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand while I was your man.
So what are you hearing? What I'm hearing and noticing is a thickening of the sound. And remember, this is happening pre-reverb. So basically it's taking that incoming signal and saturating it. And what that saturation is feeling like it's doing is adding the quote unquote warmth or body or thickness, to be honest with you, within that sound, making the reverb, to me personally, sound heavier. So you have the saturation button or fader to basically adjust that saturation that you want on it, and play with it. Try it out. See what you like, see what you don't like, and use it. It's fun to have built in. Sometimes what I would have to do is put a saturation plugin on the end of my reverb to change the sonics or add saturation to it. But now that I have a saturator built in, that's kind of fun to have to kind of manipulate it and make things sound different going down the line. Next thing we have is this smooth function. And this smooth function is really interesting. They've described it as dynamically reduces harsh sibilants in the reverb. Check this out. Let's put the smooth function all the way to 0, and then let's listen to that sibilance or that higher end stuff and see if it really makes the top end feel a little bit more smooth when it comes to the reverb. Check this out.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand while I was your man. Girl, I feel so dumb, feel like another man won.
So you hear it, you can hear that when I have the smooth crank, you can feel like the top end just feels a little bit smoother. It doesn't feel as aggressive, but the reverb is still there, and it kind of just shaves some of that stuff off that's happening at the top side that causes sibilance. What people don't realize is when you have a incoming signal or sound source that is already sibilant, and then you take that and bring it into a reverb, that reverb is now going to take that copy with that sibilance and put that on top of that. So being that it's saying, hey, I'm going to listen to that sibilance and I'm going to smooth it out in the reverb section so it doesn't really pile on top of the already sibilances there, is pretty cool to have. So you have the smooth section, and obviously you can always just determine how much of that you want there. This next section we have over here, and I'm going to change this to Hall so it's really exaggerated, is this reverse function. I'm just going to play this for you, and what I want you to look or listen for is listen to the reverb. It's going to be with your dry signal, but in reverse. This is an old school trick that I know a lot of us, when we first started engineering, started doing when we discovered it and went crazy for. Check this out. Let's turn on reverse. That was cool. And let's listen to what this sounds like. Check this out.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage.
Cool sound. It's really interesting that I have that in the plugin. Before, what I would have to do is I would have to take that sound source, reverse it, put the reverb on, and then put it underneath and kind of find the timing. But this is doing it in time. It also has the note function, which basically allows me to choose the timing that it actually does it. So I can say, hey, I want you to reverse it, but in subdivisions of an eighth note or a quarter note or anything of that nature. I can choose how or what the timing of that reversed sound should sound like. Really cool to have, really fun, very creative. If you've never done that, give it a shot. It's a really cool thing, and it's been around for years. We've been doing this, but it's dope to have it built into a plugin. Now let's go to the right-hand side, and this is the post verb. So basically what this post verb does is, and this is why this is important, it's basically an EQ, or basically they've described it as a tone shaper. It's an EQ that allows you to say, hey, reverb, I feel like you're a bit too bright. I want to roll off some of that top end on the reverb in its totality. You can do that with this low pass filter. This low pass will roll off the high end frequencies as you determine. So everything right now from 3000 and above is rolled off. And then the high pass filter does the same exact thing, but just for the low stuff. So I can basically say, hey, I want you to roll off everything from 300 hertz and below. This actual curve is known as the Abbey Road trick, if I'm not mistaken. I've been doing this for years as far as rolling off some of that low end, some of the high end, and giving me a reverb that's a little bit more focused and not really bothering my high end so much. So simple EQ within the actual reverb that's happening post your reverb. Good to know. We also have this tilt function within here that allows you to change that shape of that actual tone. If you want to give more precedent to the top end, you can with the tilt, or more precedent to the low end, you can, creating that kind of sound with the curve. Use your ears, determine what you feel sounds better, but you just know that you can actually do that within a plugin. This other side we have here, which is so cool to have, is a compressor. And basically what that compressor is doing is it's really making the tail of the reverb stand out a lot more. A lot of times what I've had to do was I've had to add a compressor to the actual reverb because I just want to get more out of the tail. Problem comes up when I try to say, okay, screw it, I'm just going to turn the reverb up more so I can get more out of the tail of the reverb. Now it's too loud on the entire sound source. So what the compressor is going to do is help me mitigate some of that loud stuff, but then also help me bring up some of that quiet stuff, thus making me feel like I have a bigger presence on my tail of the reverb. Check it out. Let's take a listen.
Tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or
really cool. Kind of even makes the reverb feel a bit heavier, but it's really helping with that tail to kind of last longer or kind of sit on your ears a bit longer. Not increasing the time or anything, but really just increasing how loud and present it is within your actual sound source. Really good to have. Thank you. It's great to have a compressor built into the actual reverb. Love that. The very last thing I'm going to show you is something that I thought was so cool to have. We have a gate. And basically what this gate does is, I'm just going to show you and then I'll explain it. Check this out. Because I think this is going to create some really cool effects that it would otherwise be a little bit more difficult to create within just the space itself. But it's just nice to have a one button to kind of do it. Check this out.
tell me why you messing with him. I mean, like, really though. Knew that you was messing with dude. I shoulda knew that. Knew that you was messing around with somebody else. Hope that you burn in hell. Hope you never hear them bells. Or get a horse and carriage. Or never go see Paris. Or when he walk beside you, you embarrassed. Cause you made me shake his hand while I was your man, girl.
So basically this gate or this slider right here is determining the input signal volume at which the gate kicks in. So obviously when I had it up here, it was basically gone the whole time. So if you're trying to find where that gate kind of kicks in or when that processing is happening, you use this slider to determine when the gate will affect the signal. You have the speed function down here, and basically the speed function is asking you, how quickly do you want me to decay or cut this thing off? Obviously, if I go to a slower speed, it's going to take a little bit more time to kind of close that gate. This is really powerful when you have a vocal sound source or whatever, where you feel like, hey, I like my reverb sound. I don't want to change the reverb time or the decay, but I just feel like when it's ending or when that reverb is done, as far as the sound source is done, I want to cut it off sooner so it doesn't interfere with that next sound that comes in as far as being a reverb. It's a good, cool way to kind of clean things up, but you can also be creative and kind of have it like pumping in time. A bunch of cool things that you can do with it. Last thing I'll show you is, obviously, we have this preset window with a bunch of different presets from Antares that they've given us to determine or use in our songs. So I want to thank Antares again for sponsoring this video and sending this over. I really, really like this plugin. I think this is really cool to have just when I'm just like, I don't really know what I want. I want to try something and I want to get creative, and allow me to dial in things easily with the GUI. I do want to say kudos to them for this GUI. I feel like this GUI is one of their simpler GUIs that I've seen. Thank you so much for it. And I just really enjoy it, and I hope you guys do too. If you want to see it or you want to get it yourself, there's a link in the description below. Check it out. So I really hope you enjoyed that. Please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Also, make sure you follow us at Help Me Devvon on Instagram, and make sure you listen to that Audio Nerds podcast every single Wednesday. We post our audio at 6 a.m. and the videos always come out 2:15 on YouTube on this very channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Shout out to all of our paid members of this channel as well that watch exclusive episodes. They get free money in the store and a bunch of other crazy things and things of that nature. Once again, thank you guys so much, and until next time, y'all.